So in this video, I want to talk about the FIFA Club World Cup that's been going on in the United States right now. There have been a lot of comments across various forms of media disparaging the competition and saying it's a pointless tournament that doesn't need to exist. It's been called a cash grab by FIFA. The games, for the most part, have been sparsely attended, supposedly. It adds more games into an already overpacked schedule for most of the players, and a lot of the games are said to not be very competitive or really interesting to watch or worth watching. And I personally want to very much disagree with this view and explain why I'm really enjoying it. Now, first off, I don't disagree with everything. Obviously, this tournament is definitely a cash grab by FIFA. Every business wants to make money. Soccer's no different from that perspective. It's not that surprising. FIFA on its own realistically only makes money from the World Cup, and yet it helps fund a lot of the international and youth tournaments for development of players, so I'm not actually that disappointed with them finding a way to make more money. Although, obviously, as long as they use it in the right way. Plus, they're using a large amount of the money as a prize to distribute back to the teams that are playing in this. And for the teams that are maybe not European teams, that money is like, I don't want to say life-changing, but really like more than they would normally get from a regular transfer fee. As for the sparsely attended games, I don't think that's entirely FIFA's fault, although they do have some role in the ticket prices. I think the venues also regulate what some of the prices, as well as the after-sale market. And the prices for tickets have been absolutely ridiculous. I live relatively close to one of the venues, and I don't want to make any of the games there because the tickets are 2 to 3 times the price of an average MLS game. Another big part of the problem is just the time of the day and the weather. In a country that soccer isn't the lifeblood of the nation, people who live close by who may not be as interested in soccer aren't going to go in the middle of the workday, especially when it's 100 degrees outside. Another issue might be the venues. On a more personal example, I did get tickets to one game. I was given tickets to the Bayern vs. Boca game in Miami for Christmas as a present. We traveled down to Miami for the weekend, arrived at the stadium an hour and a half before the game, and still missed the first 10 minutes because traffic and parking was so poorly handled by the venue. It took us that long to find a parking spot and get to the front, even though we were there, again, an hour and a half early. So that's more on the venue than FIFA. Although I'm sure FIFA maybe could have helped more, but hopefully issues like that will be fixed before the World Cup next year. Fixture congestion, however, is something I can definitely understand the argument about, though at least for the European teams, the tournament is in the off-season, but I can definitely understand players getting burnt out from too many games without time off. But personally, I'd be happy to see more rotation in the top teams, even if it makes the top teams more likely to lose a game, just because it would make the leagues more competitive throughout the year, even though I know that really isn't a solution. Maybe, and this isn't necessarily a great idea, just a thought, maybe some leagues should do something like the MLS is doing this year, where not every team participates in a tournament. I'm not necessarily sure I like that decision, but it is an option. Maybe Man City and Chelsea could be excluded from the Carabao Cup or something since they played in this tournament. It also might give other teams a chance to win those tournaments anyway. Not a great solution, but at least something to think about. The easiest thing for me to disagree with about is the idea that these games will not be competitive or not worth watching. Just like the regular World Cup, I love to watch soccer, or at least have a game on in the background, and having all the games streamable through that day DAZN site has been fantastic. And even the most non-competitive game, the Bayern vs. Auckland game that was like 10-0, wasn't exactly dull while watching it, and even still after the game it made me want to root for Auckland more in each of their games, and absolutely loved their 1-1 draw with Boca that I probably wouldn't have cared about otherwise. It has the same excitement as the regular World Cup in that sense, where it's interesting to see some players that I had forgotten or didn't realize that they had gone to certain teams. While the World Cup, it's more remembering that certain players were from different nations that I had forgotten they were from that nation or something. And it's always fun seeing those players you hadn't thought about in a while. Like being an Atlanta fan, I got to see Luis Araujo, who maybe didn't have the best time in Atlanta, but he had some great moments, and seeing him score in the FIFA Club World Cup, having forgot about him for the last 3 years, is kind of cool. One other complaint I've seen about this tournament is the way the DAZN broadcasts are doing ads. Now, obviously they do the normal ads over halftime, but they do occasionally do other types of ads that are new, at least from what I've seen. They'll do like a border ad around the game that I'll try to show when I edit this video if I can figure out how to make it work. Or they'll play a little mini ad during the substitution when the players are running out in the field. And I do understand the complaints about this, as it's a bit jarring the first time it happens, but realistically, ads are one of the main ways these streaming companies, FIFA, and even the teams that are playing make money. And I don't think these are the most intrusive ads I've ever seen, and it's much better than pausing the game like the NFL does. Though I wish they would make it a little clear to broadcasters that when there's a substitution, whatever they're saying won't be heard, because sometimes I feel like I missed a little bit of interesting trivia that the broadcasters were talking about and the ad played over it. And for the border ads, maybe have somebody manually activate them during a certain time frame when it's supposed to happen, so that way you can know it's not happening during something big, because it's a little extra jarring when your team isn't about to make an attempt on goal or get into the final third and the whole screen shifts a little bit. Overall, I would absolutely love if they continued this tournament in a similar fashion. I think it's been fantastic, and I would really like it if they made it kind of like a counterpart to the World Cup, like the Winter Olympics is to the Summer Olympics. And yes, I know Euros, Copa America, AFCON, and all those are already kind of set up that way, but to me this is a little bit more interesting than the local international cups that seem like little mini World Cups anyway, because it gives enough differences that it feels more like the differences between the Summer and the Winter Olympics. You aren't going to see the same team or person competing in the same cup or the Olympics. Like, they're different even if they're related, and I kind of like that juxtaposition, I guess, between the Club World Cup versus the World Cup, rather than like Euros and Copa America versus the World Cup. Selfishly, I would also like to continue the tournament in America. I'm a teacher. I'm not going to make a ton of money. I'm not likely to be able to do a lot of international traveling to see soccer teams that I like, and it's really awesome to get to see teams and players that I watch regularly on TV play somewhere that I actually have a chance of going to see. Obviously, it's why I went to the Bayern game. I'm a Tottenham fan, so if they could win something to get qualified, that'd be awesome, but I got to see Harry Kane, so that was fun. Anyway, I love this World Cup, the Club World Cup. I've really been enjoying it, and I hope that they improve some of the issues for the World Cup, and I hope they continue the tournament, whether or not it's here or not. So, anyway, have a good day.
Well, all doing their bit to keep them out, and you need your defender to take charge.